There be treasure! Walk the plank, you scurvy dog! I don't have a pirate hat prop, I only have this bucket hat that I got from Temu like 3 years ago. Every time I put it on, I feel like that guy from the fedora hat meme, and I don't think I've ever worn it once, so at least I'm getting my $2 worth out of it that I spent on it. Not gonna wear it the whole video, though, of course. Hello everyone, DM Dungeon Mastery here, and this is the pirate episode of the Appendix Stat Blocks.
There be treasure! Life on the open seas!
So I've decided to record these and break them up into chunks and make specific episodes about the specific creature that I'm going to be discussing in these. This episode is going to be focused on pirates, because we don't really have any pirate stat blocks in D&D 5e other than the swashbuckler. Not sure which book, I think it comes from Volo's Guide to Monsters, but it's an appendix stat block in Volo's, so I took it upon myself to make some pirates, and this guy's comment. He said I sit too close to the camera when I record. Somehow, does this make you uncomfortable? You don't want to look at my beautiful visage. Okay guys, I listened to the minority in my comments, so actually I'm gonna record the entire video like this. Yeah, so we're gonna be discussing pirate stat blocks, everybody. Yeah! So if you've been living under a rock since the 17th century and you're asking, well, what is a pirate? Anthony, what is a pirate? And I guess I'm going to tell you what a pirate is. According to Google, a pirate is a person who attacks and robs at seas. So, yeah, that's what a pirate is. I'm sorry, let's get into the first stat block here. Alright, so you'll see that we have completely switched from challenge rating, and we've gone fully all in on tier ratings. Now I will put an image on screen of when I say the word tier, in case you're new here. Tier, there are 4 tiers of play in D&D. There is 1 to 4, something to something, something to something, and 17 to 20. Can't remember the 2 middle ones, but I'll put the image up on screen. And what these do is it kind of gives you a little bit more leeway on like what to throw at your players and when, because challenge rating really isn't balanced necessarily with all of the player power creep that has come into the game, especially with D&D 2024. So I've just completely given up on challenge rating, and I've just put the enemies into tier ratings now. So this is the lowest tier. This is tier 1. This is meant for levels 1 through 4. So you kind of have to eyeball it. If you ask your players what the average hit point is amongst the party, look at the damage that the creature can do and its abilities, and then you should be able to really kind of gauge how difficult it will be. So this is a pirate Swabbie. And what is a Swabbie, you might ask? A Swabbie is a unranked deckhand, essentially. They are underneath of the deckhand. They are greenhorns. They are just the guys that do menial labor around the ships, like swab the poop deck.
Swab the poop deck, laddie!
So this is a Swabbie. And a Swabbie, I have decided, is going to use the minion rules. So instead of boring you and reading every little thing about the stat block, we'll just kind of briefly gloss over it, because I've made quite a bit of pirates, because I felt pretty inspired when I started working on them. So Swabbies have really low armor class. They only have 5 hit points, but the hit points don't really matter when the creature is considered a minion. So what is a minion? Minions come from 4th edition. It was a optional rule, or some stat blocks had the minion trait built into it, so I've added that into this. And a minion basically states that damage from attacks or failed saving throws defeats the minion. If you hit it once, you kill it, essentially. Other damage kills it only if it, brings it to 0 HP, pretty much. Otherwise, it takes no damage. You'll see that this pirate also has the pack tactics, which makes sense. They all work on a ship, they live on a ship together. It would make sense that they are familiar with working with one another and able to take advantage of singular creatures when more of their allies are nearby, so I think that's a fitting ability for them. So let's move into the actions. This is a simple stat block. It's nothing to write home about. It's meant for low level play, probably levels 1. So if you want to run like a really low level seafaring campaign and you have like a little schooner boat roll up on your player character's boat, you could put a bunch of pirate swabbies on it. Just name them something else. You can just call them pirates. You don't have to tell your players these are called swabbies, but this is more so for you. So we have a cutlass, which is a classic pirate weapon. They can slash or stab with it, only does a d6 piercing damage, and then we have a rope swing ability. Now this is one that you'll have to kind of use with caution. You don't want to spam this. You have to use it when it makes sense. So it's a special action. If the pirate is on its ship, it can grab a rope hanging from the mast, swing up to its speed, and make a melee attack. So they can kind of Indiana Jones swing in and swing their weapon, or like Captain Jack Sparrow. I can't remember if he does that in the movies at all or not. I'm sure he does. It's a classic pirate movie. I just haven't seen it in a long time. Now, I was kind of iffy on this ability. I might remove it after this video comes out. I might not. I'm just depending on feedback. Because it is a little bit of a spammy ability. I don't have it on a cooldown. I might actually just take the attack out of it and just let them swing and not provoke opportunity attacks, which makes them kind of like a bunch of trapeze artists on their boat, which is a little funny. Anyways, that's the Pirate Swabbie. It's simple, low level trash mob. So let's move on to the next one. Alright, next up we have the Deckhand pirate. Now this is the backbone of any ship that has pirates on it. This is going to be your classic sea bandit. These are pirates are sea brigands, essentially, sea bandits. These are really good at for random encounters. If you're doing like a hex crawl on the sea, you have a ship full of deckhands. For your mid-level characters, your levels like 3 to 4, these are a perfect enemy to mob your players with instead of just using like goblins or something. So deckhands also have pack tactics. They no longer have minion rules, so your players are going to have to leave tier 1 in order for these to become minions. So once your players hit level 5, I would add the minion tag to deckhands and then just use deckhands as a more powerful version of the swabbies. So deckhands also have the rope swing. It works the same way. They also have a cutlass, which works the same way, but this is where we start getting a little bit more interesting because I've added gunpowder weapons to these guys. The deckhands have flintlock pistols. Now, what I did with these is I want a firearm to feel deadly. It should feel deadly. You're getting shot with a bullet. 5e has hit point bloat, and it's already hard enough to make players feel mortal. But when they get shot with this, they should really feel it. So this is a recharge of 6, and I put the recharge on there because I want it to feel like it's hard to reload a flintlock musket type weapon in the middle of battle. So you keep rolling that recharge and you keep failing it. Just describe it as like the pirate's trying to reload the weapon frantically and he's fumbling the ammo. He's dumping the gunpowder all over the ship deck as it's swaying back and forth in the middle of the storm. Now, how much damage does it do? Well, it has a range of 40 to 100 feet because they're not necessarily accurate. Flintlock weapons were notoriously not very accurate. That's why you had a line of guys shooting at each other because it took that many to make them accurate. No more or less accurate than a bow, I suppose, or a crossbow, but much more slower to reload, but just heavy hitting, hard stopping power. So it does 3d8 piercing damage on a hit. That's a lot for a challenge rating, 1 monster, essentially. If the attack roll exceeds the creature's AC by 5 or more, the attack is a critical hit. So it only has a +4 to hit on the deckhands, but that's a lot of damage. That's 6d8 damage potentially, and that's gonna really hurt. That's pretty much gonna one-shot a low-level character. In most instances, if you roll 6d8 piercing damage, but makes sense, right? You're getting shot with a firearm. It should feel terrible. It should feel like very punishing to get hit by this. Now, it does have misfire, so if the Swabbie or the deckhand rolls a 1, the weapon misfires, and it has to be repaired as an action before it can be fired again. The weapon gets wet, it automatically misfires. So if you have a druid or somebody that can use some sort of spell like create water, and they can wet the weapons of the pirates that they have. You can actually disable their gunpowder weapons. I can't talk. Their gunpowder weapons, and that's pretty powerful. I mean, simple but powerful, and it makes sense. It helps with role playing. It lets your players think creatively on how to counter something that's so strong. Then we have point blank. Ignores the penalty of ranged attacks made within 5 feet. Pretty simple. It's a pretty dangerous mob enemy, I would say. Pretty fun. You know, these guys roll up side by side, and then like you have a bunch of deckhands just come off the ship and just start laying down a line of fire before boarding. And next on the list we have the Pirate Raker. These guys are the first tier 2 pirate on the deck here. We have a pirate that is meant to kind of go one-on-one. These are the guys that first board the ship. They have boarding hooks, or I guess they called them boarding pikes. They have much higher hit points with 26 over the Swabbie's 5 and the Deckhand's 16. Their stats are a lot stronger in the strength department. They have an athletics skill proficiency to show that they're kind of, you know, grappling hooking the side of another ship, pulling themselves up, and then getting into the combat. They don't have any firearms, but they do have the Brute passive, which allows their melee weapons to deal 1 extra die of damage on a hit, which does make them a little bit more formidable. They do also have pack tactics, and these guys have multi-attack, so they're going to get in. They have this boarding pike that has a 10-foot reach. They have a jab attack, which is just, you know, a lunge. And then they also have a hook and pull attack with that boarding pike because it has a long hook on it. I'll try to find a picture of a boarding pike. I've seen a miniature with a pirate holding one. I'll probably put that on screen because I thought it was pretty cool. That's where I got the idea from. And the hook and pull essentially does less damage than the jab, but large or smaller creatures, so large size and smaller, so large all the way to tiny, have to make a strength save, or they are moved 10 feet to an unoccupied space of the pirate's choice, or pulled prone. So they can grab you and pull you off the ship, or they can grab you and yank you down to the deck, pull you onto the ground. Or, you know, if you're fighting these guys on an island or something, don't just think, oh, they can only be fought on ships. You can find them on an island and then maybe fight them, take the treasure that they were hauling off the island, catch them mid treasure haul there. They also have a boarding axe, which is an iconic weapon for pirates, I think. It really doesn't do much more than the boarding pike. It does 2d8 or 2d10 if they are using it two-handed. I didn't think they really needed to have something that dealt more damage than the boarding pike, but you know, if they get disarmed of their boarding pike for whatever reason by like your battlemaster fighter, they have a backup weapon. And then if they get disarmed, obviously they're just gonna have to punch you. But that's the Pirate Raker. Pretty self-explanatory, pretty beefy. You know, these are you can put like one of these in with a bunch of deckhands, or like 2 or 3 of them in with some deckhands and some swabbies. And at like lower levels, like 1 through 4, this is like the big muscly guy that walks past the swabbies and fights your players that are level 1. This is like the mini boss or something like that on the little schooner boat. So that's the Raker. Let's get into the next one. Next one we have here is the Gunner. Now this is a stronger version of the Deckhand in a way. These guys have big muskets, so they have a little bit more health, actually a little bit more health than the Raker, I just noticed. So I might have to increase the Raker's HP just to keep in line with this guy. They have multi-attack, but it only counts for their cutlass, but they have a flintlock musket. Now they have a +7 to hit with this, and this is like a full rifle, not a pistol. This does 3d12 damage on a hit, and if the attack roll exceeds the creature's AC by only 3 or more, it's a critical hit. So you're gonna have to take cover when you are in a gunfight, essentially. Like, your players are gonna have to think tactically. They're gonna have to say, I come out from cover, I attack, I get behind cover, so I have a cover bonus. Otherwise, you know, 6d12 piercing damage at tier 2 play, that's a lot of damage no matter what level you are if you get crit by this. And it still has the same misfire and the point blank trait. So these are just the pirates that are going to probably stay on their ship and they're going to be shooting at you from their ship. So you're going to have to do something about that, whether you set their boat on fire, something. But that's a pirate gunner. Pretty self-explanatory, but very deadly. Alright, this is a controversial one because it's only tier 2 and it does a lot of damage. This is a pirate Cannoneer. Now that name is a little bit misleading because I think any pirate can operate a cannon on their ship. This guy's called a Cannoneer because he has a hand cannon, which is the very iconic pirate weapon, the blunderbuss, the world's first shotgun. This is a little bit more volatile of a weapon. This has a recharge of a 3 to 6. They shoot in a 20-foot cone. So anytime they shoot this, it does a 20-foot cone. It's almost a dragon's breath weapon. And it does a ton of damage. So this is a little bit more random though. So it has a recharge of 3 to 6, and then also when you shoot it, you have to roll a d6 to see what happens. I like to make the players roll a d6, but I like when fate is in their hands, so if I roll high, it's not my fault. So on a 1 to 3 on the d6 roll after you fire it, the weapon misfires, and it has to be repaired as an action, and if it gets wet, it automatically misfires, obviously. This is because blunderbusses were... I'm pretty sure from my knowledge of a blunderbuss, they are very unreliable. They were very, very finicky weapons. They were experimental almost. You know, you dump a bunch of gunpowder in it, and then you put a bunch of, you know, musket balls in, and you fire it. Hopefully it goes off. Hopefully it doesn't blow up in your hand. Now on a 4 to 5, the creatures in range take 4d10 piercing damage. And if you roll a 6 on the d6, the creatures take 8d10 piercing damage, and they are mangled. Mangled is your movement speed is reduced by half, and you have disadvantage on dexterity saves until you receive magical healing. That's pretty dangerous, so you don't want to put too many of these guys in, but you want to have at least 1 to 2 if you're doing anything, you know, against a decently high leveled party, even a mid-level party. Low levels, this is a little dangerous because this could probably one-shot an entire party if you roll high enough, but it's volatile also, so it only hits on a 4, 5, or a 6, and it misses on a 1, 2, and 3. So that was my idea for the blunderbuss. Now you could change that, you could reduce the damage if you don't like it, you can just say it's 3d12 in a cone, but I wanted to make sure it felt like you were getting hit with a shotgun. So that's the Cannoneer, that's the blunderbuss. Let's move into the next one. Okay, so we have the Corsair next. The Corsair is sort of like the elite pirate. These are the guys that are battle hardened. They still notice they don't really have that many hit points. I might increase the hit points a little bit, but I don't want to make them too high so that they feel kind of hit point bloaty. And these are at the very high end of tier 2, so these are meant to go against like levels 7 to 10 players pretty much. Same with the Cannoneer really. Now these guys have a saving throw proficiency for strength and dexterity. They have athletics, intimidation, perception skills. So these are the guys that, you know, these are the elite veteran pirates that are on the boat. They have brute, they have firearm expert, which allows them to ignore the reloading penalty with firearms, so their flintlock pistols don't have a recharge. And you'll see why. They also have pack tactics, and let's get into the actions. So they have a 3 attack multi-attack. They make 2, or they make 3 with their cutlass, or they make 2 with their pistols. So they have a bandolier and they have pistols on them. They pull the pistols out, bang, bang, they drop them, grab 2 more out. And, you know, you can either describe it like that, or you could describe it as like they reload at this incredible speed. They are firearm experts. So they can make 3 melee attacks, which are 2d6 on a hit, plus 3, mind you, or 10 average damage. So that's 30 damage if they hit with all 3. Or they can make 2 flintlock pistol attacks, which would be 3d8 per hit. But if they crit with that exceeding the armor class by 5 or more with the attack roll, that's 12d8 piercing damage. Now they also have a black powder bomb, which they only carry 4 of these, and they make them once per day, so they carry 4 a day. It's a 60-foot range. They throw the bomb at a point within range. Each creature within 15 feet of that point has to make a DC 18 dex save, or they take 6d10 force damage, and they are deafened and mangled until they receive magical healing. If they succeed, they only take half damage and they resist the negative effects. So, mangled, remember, they have disadvantage on dexterity saves, and their movement speed is reduced by half until they receive magical healing. And this, from the explosion, they're also deafened, so they won't be able to hear anything. So their ears are going to be ringing. There's going to be explosions going off on the ship. Just all absolute chaos. These are the guys that, they come in and they wreck face with, your higher end level player characters. Now let's get into the final stat block here. All right. He is the one that commands you to walk the plank, laddie. This is the pirate captain. Now, this guy's not, he's not a god amongst men, but he is a force of will. He is the guy that commands, the pirates. He's the Blackbeards. He is your Kenways, if you like Assassin's Creed Black Flag. That's where most of my knowledge for pirates comes from, is that game. It was one of the good Assassin's Creeds. He's got hit points of 75, so he's got 10 d8 hit die worth of health. He has an armor class of 18. He's not wearing armor, but you'll see why. So he's got a 20 charisma. If you're a leader of a ship full of ne'er-do-wells, you have to have something about you that can keep these guys in line. Captains of ships like that always had high charisma, in my mind. It's just like a cult leader. They're gonna convince people to join them somehow. They have to be good talkers, or at least intimidating in some way. So they have 3 saving throw proficiencies with strength, dexterity, and charisma. They have a ton of skill proficiencies. Let's go through their special traits here. They have all the other things that the other pirates have, but they have suave defense. This comes from the Volo's book. He adds his charisma mod to his armor class. So that's why his AC is 18. Because he's almost so convincing that you have to reconsider before you hit him with your weapon. Because maybe he is right. Maybe the governing powers that be are wrong and they are right. They are the free peoples and you're wrong for attacking them. Who knows? We have Indomitable. So this is a fighter's version of legendary resistance, kind of. He re-rolls a failed saving throw. He can do that 3 times per day. Now let's look at his multi-attacks. He makes 4 attacks with his cutlass, or 4 with his pistols, and he can replace an attack with a use of leadership. So that's 4 of one or the other. So he's the one that I'm picturing that has the bandoliers of like 12 pistols. He's shooting, he's tossing the ones that he shot, pulls out 2 more, shoots, tosses them, shoots, tosses them. That's what I picture a badass pirate looks like. So his cutlass, he also has disarming clash, which he can disarm you if he's in melee with you. Now, mind you, he can make 4 of these attacks, technically. So disarming clash is if you're a medium or smaller creature, you have to make a strength save or you drop an object of the pirate's choice that you are holding. However, if he spams this against you, so if he tries to do this against you 4 times, after the first time he uses it, your player characters have advantage on this. And it's to discourage you from spamming it against the same person 4 times in a row, because that does get frustrating. If you disarm the paladin of his sword, and then you keep spamming it, you disarmed him of his shield. He can fail it. There's a chance that he can fail it, but it's like you learn that somebody's trying to go for your weapon over and over again, so you're going to start protecting that weapon so you can't just rip it out of your hands, right? It makes more sense that way. And now he's got flintlock pistols. Nothing too special about them, but he has a plus 10 to hit. If he exceeds your armor class by 5 or more, it's a critical hit, mind you, and a plus 10 to hit, unless you're wearing like the full plate armor, you have a shield, you have pluses on your armor, he's eventually going to crit you more often than not. He definitely, and he makes 4 attacks, so that's a lot of d8s worth of piercing damage if he manages to crit you a bunch of times. Now let's look at leadership here. This is a dangerous ability. So the pirate captain directs up to 5 allies within 60 feet that can hear him, or it. That 5 comes from his charisma mod, that's why it says +5. I could have just put the number 5, but I wanted it on there like that, so if you decide to edit these stat blocks at some point, you can up that. If you up his charisma mod, it'll go up automatically. So we got whack 'em. The creatures use their reactions to make a weapon attack. Now, if you have a line full of pirate gunners and he uses whack 'em, that's 5 more shots that these guys can do on their turn, as long as their weapons aren't on cooldown from the recharge. For the Corsairs, he can use that, and if you have like 5 Corsairs, that's 5 more volleys of gunfire coming at you. And then he's got move, you dogs. The creatures use their reaction to move up to their speed, so he could just reposition his men and have his men make an attack for their reaction. So yeah, and he is a tier 3 creature. That's where the pirates kind of cap out at. Tier 3 is player characters levels 11 through 16. You can make more powerful pirates. Honestly, I kind of ran out of ideas after the pirate captain, so I am absolutely open to more ideas for these pirates. So if you guys come up with some, leave them down in the comments, and I'll probably add them to the Patreon post that these will be attached to, which, speaking, these are all going to be Patreon exclusive, but I'm showing them on screen, so if you want to copy them down yourself, obviously that you can do that. Pause the video, look at the stat block, but I wanted to do this as a thank you for my patrons, so these will all be found on my Patreon if you subscribe to the lowest tier, which is $3.50 a month, or you can just purchase that specific group of appendix creatures for $3.50 without subscribing for the monthly subscription. However, if you sub for the monthly, you'll get access to every single stat block that I've ever made, and you can, download them all at once, or stay subscribed because you like the channel and you want to support me. So that has been the pirate episode of the appendix stat blocks. I'm actually having a lot of fun, not hard focusing on a single type of creature for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. I'm actually churning out a bunch of these different stat blocks, so I might keep up with these and try to make shorter videos just showcasing some appendix style creatures, which I need some more suggestions because I'm running out of ideas. So leave down some suggestions in the comments. So this has been DM Dungeon Mastery. I'm not saying goodnight. I'm just saying I'll see you in the next video.